Hi, good evening.
Hi, good morning, sir, and everyone.
All right, good morning. You all guys from Oxford, right? Tracy and Atiba can see my screen and can hear me clearly.
Yes, sir, we can.
All right, so let's start. Let's start. Welcome, both of you, to the presentation for Business Research Project. I'm Dr. Suhel. I'm the module leader for this research project. Right? So today I will be briefing you about the expectations for your project, how to start, starting from your writing your proposal, then developing your project till submission. Right. Right. This module or business research project focused on a critical and important issues, mainly to undertake an effective and systematic business research. When we say effective and systematic, it means to follow the process and the procedure. It also integrates theory and practice. It incorporates understanding taken from a critical review of the appropriate literature, based the project on sound analysis and arguments, and your document or research project and need to be documented, well documented, and present the research findings in a prescribed format for the project. Basically, end of this module or research project, the students are expected the below outcomes: to evaluate and make recommendation for organizational development relating to a theme or particular issue which impact the participants in the organization or any other organization that student is familiar with. You also require to design, develop, and apply, and also evaluate practically sound business research skills, techniques, which will take into the consideration of the appropriate ethical, commercial, confidentiality, and data protection issues. You will be also expected to critically evaluate the theme or issues impacting on business organization or business models, drawing upon and developing concepts or developing models and theories to provide feasible solutions and feasible solutions to the problems and issues that you have identified in the organizations, right? So these are the learning outcomes students are expected to achieve upon completion of this business research project. So indicative content or syllabus, you can say, is to choose a topic and design the project, analyze the literature and writing a critical literature review, develop a conceptual theoretical framework and research methodology frameworks, to collect data and analyze, use in your research materials, interpret research materials, drawing conclusions, and finally to form an arguments and writing up the project. So these are the areas you're supposed to cover while you're doing the business research project. Now, this is important. You always remember, this is how your table of content will look like. You will start with an abstract, then acknowledgement, and there will be 5 chapters. Chapter 1 is introduction, literature review, research methodology, analysis and findings, conclusion and recommendations, and appendixes and references. Right. In abstract, mainly you will summarize. You will briefly tell us about the project, what area you have selected, why you have selected, how the whole project went through, and what is the outcomes in a brief manner. So that is your abstract. In the acknowledgement part, basically while you are doing your project, you will be interacting with either your company or some other people. You will be constantly interacting with your supervisor. So you will acknowledge them, kind of thanking them, right? Introduction. That is the key area, the chapter 1. In introduction, basically you will introduce your research topic or research problem. Will give the introduction. You will be also discussing the background of your research problem or research project. You will be telling us the reason, try to convince your readers why you have chosen this in the background information. Then you will be presenting your problem statement or the issues or the problem you've identified with a lot of justification. Then you also will be discussing about the research aim and objectives, the significance of your research so that your audiences are convinced. So this is what more or less in chapter 1 you will cover. In chapter 2 is the literature review. Now, what is literature review? Literature is the research, past research or contemporary research on the same field. So you will be telling that the problem you have identified, there are some research in the other parts of the world or maybe in the same country, but not on the same topic, right? In the same region. It can be the same topic, but the location has to be specific. Then you will be discussing in a kind of comparative manner, and you also will be present the findings from the other researchers. And based on your literature review, we'll try to formulate kind of conceptual framework, the framework of your research. You will also develop your hypothesis based on your literature review. So that is literature review. And next is research methodology. In chapter 3 or in research methodology, you will be telling your audiences what method you have selected for your research. This can be quantitative, this can be qualitative. So this is the method you will be telling your audiences which method you're going to follow or which you have followed. In chapter 3, you will be also discussing about your samples or the populations or the target populations. Who are your samples? How you're going to collect your data? Is it that you're going to distribute your survey form or you're going to take interview? Basically, in quantitative method, students or the people distribute the survey forms to collect data, whereby in the qualitative method, the method is to take interview, then to quote the interviews and doing the analysis later on. In chapter 3, you will be also develop your questionnaire or survey form or the interview questions based on your method you have selected. You will be also telling kind of whether you are doing any pilot studies or not, what are the implications of the pilot studies. So these all are the things you will be including in your chapter 3, which is research methodology. And upon completion of your methodology and developing your survey form or questionnaire, then you will distribute and collect data. So in chapter 4, you will be analyzing your data and write your findings. While you're doing your analysis, you can take the help of the statistical tools like SPSS or SmartPLS or some other software. You can use the software to analyze your data. Then you will be detailing, you write your findings, what are the key areas you have discovered based on the data you have collected. And in chapter 5, so you'll be doing a conclusion. Your conclusion will be based on all the chapter, because in the introduction, you have set a specific objectives, research objectives. So in chapter 5, you need to tell whether you have achieved your research objectives. Then you will draw an overall conclusion. Based on your findings, you will be also doing some recommendations, because all the research start with an identification of a problem. Since you have identified a problem and you have done a literature review, you have also done data collections, and you have analyzed your data. So you know the pros and cons, the reason of the problems. Based on that, you need to do a practical recommendations, right? And then in the referencing part, you will do the referencing. Basically, Britain University will follow Harvard referencing style. There are many other styles available, but for us, we follow Harvard referencing style. And in the appendix, you any additional information you want to put, like questionnaire or the data collection, data analysis part, or the approval letter, any other part you want to put in the appendix, you want to show to your readers. Right. So this is the overall structure of your business project, how it should look like. Now, the specific requirements for the research project, the requirements. It needs to be thorough, rigorous, and well organized, involves undertaking systematic research. As I mentioned, it got to be in 5 chapters, followed by your referencing this and that. So it needs to be very systematic. Use appropriate method to systematically collect and analyze data, right? In chapter 3, I showed you that research methodology. So you need to be very clear which method you are going to use it and why you are using it, right? It will argue why the result obtained are meaningful and explain any limitation that are associated with them. So if you do not choose proper methodology, it may give you a wrong result. As a result, the whole project might not be meaningful, right? So in this case, we always advise our students to follow supervisor. They will guide you. When you will present your proposal and you discuss with your supervisor based on the scenario you have, or based on the problem, based on the proposal you have developed, they are going to, what method you are going to follow. Is it qualitative or quantitative or mixed mode, whatever? You need to consult with your supervisor, then he or she will be able to guide you. Critically examine the relevant literature and research, right? So your literature should be updated, and you need to really discuss in details. You really need to convince your audiences with the facts and figures based on the contemporary research published or done in some other parts of the world. You also need to demonstrate the student also need to demonstrate the capacity for rigorous analysis, perceptive observation, and critical assessment. So in chapter 4, how you're doing the analysis? Is it at a bachelor level, or are you taking any assistance from the statistical tools? How you're doing it? So you need to demonstrate something convincing. You need to display a clear and coherent expression, discussion, and the presentation. Sometimes we notice that the student, whatever they are saying in chapter 1, the research objectives, research area and all, in chapter 2, when they are doing the literature, we feel that they are discussing something else. In chapter 5, they are talking something else, right? So there is no coherent expression. There is no logical development, right? You need to follow this. Analyze and develop issues arising from the research and make appropriate recommendations for improvements, right? So based on your data collection and analysis, you need to make some quality recommendations for the improvements. So that is the key area, that is the main outcome of your research, your contribution, right? So these are the specific requirements. Now, let's look into this. This is most important. Your research project, the word count, it should be 7,000 to 8,000 words, right? If your word exceed the word limit, which is the maximum is 8,000, you will be penalized. Again, if your word count is lesser than 7,000, also you will be penalized. In some cases, significantly lesser than 7,000, you might fail. So please remember about the word count. This is very, very important. Now, students upon the attendance of research methodology workshop, either online or face-to-face, are required to complete and submit the research project between 3 months or after our extension a maximum of 6 months. So you will be getting a time frame somewhere between 3 to 6 months. So after today our discussion, you would be required to develop a proposal, and once your proposal is approved, you will be assigned a supervisor. So you will work with your supervisor for minimum 3 to 6 months. So on an average, we see that student can complete within 4 to 5 months time, right? So this is the time frame. If you need any assistance, you can contact me or contact your respective center at any time. On top of that, you will be constantly discussing with your supervisor. Now, there are some rules and regulations we need to highlight here. Supervisor, your work will be supervised. Their work to be read advance of meetings. So your supervisor, he will supervise you, he will guide you, read your work, but you should give in sufficient time for readings. The supervisors to be available, the supervisors to be approachable, the supervisor to be constructively critical. They will criticize your work. They will give input of your how to develop, what is the lacking, what is your weaknesses, what you should do, what you should not do. The supervisors to have a good knowledge of the research project process. The receipt of the work will be sent electronically. That means you will be communicate with the supervisor through email, and it will be acknowledged within a maximum of working week, except their supervisor on approve and all leave, right? Now, what supervisor accept of the research students? Now, the students are independent learners. So your supervisor always want you to work independently, not too much of depending on them. Your supervisor also want you to produce and submit your work at least 48 hours before any scheduled meeting. Let's say you have scheduled a meeting today, so at least 48 hours before you to submit your work to him, so that he or she have enough time to read your work. The students seek advice and comment on their work from the peers and others. Students also need to listen and advise to make informed decision before accepting or rejecting. Students accept that it's the responsibility to take initiative and arrange in a regular meetings, right? So this should be your job, student job, to arrange meeting with the supervisor. Do not expect your supervisor to call for meeting, right? You can schedule meeting virtually. Students also make and keep appointments or give adequate notice. So if you have scheduled a meeting and any unfortunate things happen, and you want to cancel the meeting, you should let know your supervisor at least 24 hours. Otherwise, he or she also, your supervisor will be, giving your time, then suddenly without notice, you are not show up, and you're canceling. This is not good. You're not showing respect to your supervisor. Students also need to be honest when they are reporting progress. Do not simply make excuses. Now, this is, I want to make very clear what the supervisor is not responsible for. To collaborate with the student to produce a research timetable. So it is not the supervisor job. This is purely student job to liaise with your supervisor to prepare a timetable for your regular meetings and all. Advising on the structure of the project and feasibility of the methodology that supervisor will do. Supervisor is also very critics of draft chapters. When you submit your chapters, the supervisor will criticize, will make comments, and also will guide you how to make improvements. Supervisor will give advice regarding the submission of the project. Now, supervisor is not responsible for the designing fieldwork. So if there's any fieldwork, I mean data collection and all, this is student job. Yeah, the researcher jobs. Your supervisor cannot go and help on that. Editing, proofreading, do not expect from your supervisor. And I mentioned already that student need to arrange meetings, not the supervisor. In addition, that please note that the frequency of the meeting will be decided between the student and the supervisor, at least 2 progress reports. Now, upon completion or end of your project, you need to submit a form. You can see in the appendix or in your student portal, which I will show you later, that called Student Supervision Progress Report. In that progress report, you will be detailing, you will be writing. I will show you a template. You will be writing the date and time you meet with your supervisor, right? So this is one of your job. You will take note on this. And please remember that it is your responsibility and yours alone and the student's job to maintain a regular contact with your supervisor. Some comment and advices arises from the above. It is essential that you make use of all spell and grammar check. Do not expect that your supervisor will correct your English or spelling. It's not their responsibility. As I mentioned earlier, they will be guiding you on your research concept, on your methodology. They will be criticizing chapter by chapter. What are your weaknesses? What are the area you can develop, right? And what they will do, however, is to tell you if their work is deficient in all these areas. What are your deficiencies? You are responsible for ensuring that your work is up to the expected standard in the areas. Now, how you should contact with your supervisor? That another area that causes problem that we have experienced while dealing with our students, for various reasons, fail to maintain a regular contact with the supervisor. Students go missing. They are not in touch with your supervisor. Suddenly they say, okay, I'm done. Submit 5 chapters together. So this practice can several outcomes, and depending on the severity, can attract the penalties, or in some cases, they can fail you as well, right? So we strongly recommend you to maintain a regular communication. Discuss with your supervisor in the first meeting, and also discuss about the interval of your meetings. You want to have a weekly or twice in a month or 3 times in a month. Discuss with your supervisor and decide what are the dates and times. It can be, sometimes students are working, so it can be after work, or it's sometimes in Saturdays. So you all decide, discuss and decide. The most serious outcome, the lack of contact with the supervisor, is to student attempt to submit complete unsupervised project. As I mentioned, suddenly submit. Such project will not be accepted for consideration for the award of Bachelor of Business Administration. All BABA research projects must be supervised. And regular contact issue the supervisor that you work resubmitting or submitting to them is not plagiarized from the work of the others, right? That is another important issue, that whatever you are writing, make sure you are doing enough citation, and do not copy, do not copy from any others, because end of your project, you need to do a plagiarized report. So a plagiarism report need to be submitted to the university. University regulation pertaining to plagiarism are in detail in Appendix 2. Let me explain this. If university find your work is significantly plagiarized, I mean copy from the others, you will be penalized, you will be barred. Of course, you will be failed as well. Now, plagiarism can occur in few ways. Sometimes student copy paste, plagiarize. Sometimes unintentionally, that means you are citing from some other works and you forgot to cite properly. That also will end up with plagiarism. So that's why I said, when you are writing, make sure you do the citation or referencing properly. If you do proper citations, the chances are quite high it won't be plagiarized. The ethical considerations. Once a supervisor is appointed, you are advised to make contact with him or her as soon as possible, as practical. There are two broad categories into which BABA projects fits, low risk and high risk. The overwhelming majority of BABA projects are low risk. That means it's still bachelor level. There's no high expectations, it's low risk. All the students are required to comply with the university universal prescribed code of ethics when undertaking research. Now, code of ethics also involves copying from the others. If you are copying from the others, you are breaching the ethical considerations. Now, how to submit and all. All the students who have progressed the BABA research project are given the opportunity of handling a draft copy of their final document. Your supervisor will advise you in a good time as to at the latest date when you can do this, right? The date depends upon allowing the sufficient time of your research supervisor to read your draft and comment on it, and also to allow you for you to make account of any comments or suggestions made by your supervisor, so that you can incorporate or you can make changes into your final documents. So please bear in mind, when you submit final draft to your supervisor, he or she may need at least a week time to go through, to read your project, and whatever the recommendations they make, and you need to follow it. Sometimes you notice, let's say 30th December is the submission time. Student give 28 or 29 to supervisor and expect the supervisor to read within 10 hours or 12 hours and submit, so that the student can meet the timeline. In that case, you will miss the submission date, right? Because you didn't give enough time to your supervisor. Submission of the final project. Once you get the clearance from your supervisor, the specific date of handling your final project is generally dependent on the graduation event of which you are aiming. Let's say you enroll in January 2022, you will get another 4 to 6 months time, which will be indicated in your student portal. There may be other good times that agreed upon, and if one of the times applies to you, you will be informed. Regardless of what date applies, you will be informed in a good time as to the specific date when you are required to submit your work. So the date, I mean the final date is not negotiable. And in extenuating circumstances, your supervisor may advise you to apply for a short extension, depending on the circumstances. Sometimes medical or some emergency reasons, we allow you a very short period of extension. In all cases, any extension granted would mean that you will submit for the next graduation date after one that has previously allocated. All right. Now, marking guidelines. So I show you the marking guidelines so that you know where to focus and how to focus. All the students' projects are double marked. Double marked means your supervisor is the first marker, then it will come to the university. Normally the module leader or the program leader will be your second marker. All right. Both markers assess your work independently. Only when the project has been read and marked by both assessors independently do they get together to discuss your work and agree on a final mark. Right. Should both markers are finally difficult in agreeing in the final mark, there will be third markers. Normally, first marker and second marker, we don't see much differences and they agree to a common marks. In case if the first marker is significantly different from the second marker, it will go to the third marker. And whatever the third markers take the decision, that is final. So this is how your the marks distribution, I will say. For abstract and acknowledgement, there is a 5%. And I already briefed you what to put in the abstract and in the acknowledgement part. In the introduction part, 10%. Literature review, 15%. Research methodology, 20%. Chapter 4, which is your analysis and findings, is 30%. That is the key area, key part of your research. Conclusion and recommendations, 10%. Referencing, 5%. And overall your presentations, your word count compliance, your presentation overall is 5%. So total is 100%. Now, this is your picture from your student portal. I will be showing you in a live, right? Student portal I will show you, and how to access the materials I will show you in a while. So let's focus on the 8 stages. The 8 stages of your project completion. So if you focus, normally from our experiences, those students who focus in these 8 stages, they normally don't go wrong. Their project are very much in line, and they can score a better grade. Right. So far, any issues? So far, do you understand what I'm saying? Anything you don't understand? Anything you are not clear? Tracy and Atiba.
Hi, good morning, sir. I'm not sure if you broke up a bit. Can you repeat that last point that you mentioned, please?
You mean the grading?
Yes, thank you.
All right. Okay, this is your student portal, how it looked like. This is your student portal. You see, this is the home page. The moment you go in, you can see the research project, Bachelor of Arts in Business Administration, January 2022, which is your semester. On the left hand, you can see the introduction, section 1, section 2, session 1, all the sessions. Whereby in the introduction part, you will get a cover page of your business research project. And also you'll be getting some notes on your Harvard referencing style and other necessary information. From section 2 onwards, you will get all the notes. You see, lecture 2 is an overview of a research project. Lecture 3, introduction to business research. Lecture 4, research framework development. Lecture 5, the research aim and plan. All right. On the right hand side, the arrow indicated, you see the resources. When you click onto this tab, you can see all the textbook, the research method for business, research project mark sheet. You can also get the research project requirements updated, etc., etc. All other templates are available there. I hope got it, Atiba. Hello, do I answer your question? You all need to unmute and talk. If any question, unmute and talk. All right, let's look into the 8 stages of the research project. Out of the 8 stages, and the stage 1 is to establish a general field of interest. This is where you will write your proposal, your research area. You need to identify your topic. Then undertake a background and reading of your research and consider appropriate research approach, which is your second stage. Refine your ideas to develop a research proposal and give it to a title. Decide on the most appropriate method for gathering data, your questionnaires or interviews. This is basically in chapter 3, what do we do, research methodology. In stage 4, students need to prepare information gathering, all the data they collected, or it can be either through distribution of the questionnaires or survey forms, or it can be through interviews. Then they will collect data and analyze data, that is in stage 6. So when you are done with your analysis, more or less your research is 90% complete. So in stage 7, you will draft the analysis and conclusion of the chapter. And at the stage 8, finish your writing project and submit the stage, and it's ready for submission. Of course, you need to do a revision a few times. Now, so far, any question before I proceed to the next topic? Tracy?
Hi, good morning, sir.
Yep, good morning.
Hi, I just basically have one question. I'm not sure if I had missed it before because I was in a meeting. For our proposal, I'm seeing it's 500. Could we go over that and by how much?
Could you please repeat? I didn't get you, Tracy.
Our proposal, the word count.
Okay, word count is 7,000 to 8,000. No less than 7,000 and not more than.
Sorry, sir. The research project proposal.
Okay, proposal should be within 500 words is fine. I will be
Within
showing you.
500.
I will be. Let me show you Let me show you this. Alexander, are you with us?
Yes, I am, sir.
All right. Let's look into this. Can you see this, the business research project? Do you have the access to this module? Both of you.
We do have access to the research project module, yes.
Right, right. So you come to the resources. Under this tab, you can come here, business research proposal template. When you click into this, there will be the proposal template will, this is the soft copy of the template.
Yes, sir, I saw that, but I was actually looking over some previous briefing for this same topic, and I saw that different occasions you all had stated different word count, like probably like 5 to 1,000, 500 to 1,000 words, 800 to 900 words. So that's the reason for the question.
All right. You see here, Tracy and Alexander, both of you, this is the template in your student portal, research proposal template, and it's clearly stated here, look into this. The word count for page from this can be maximum of 500 words, huh? Tracy, have you seen this? Maximum of
Yes, I
500,
did.
right?
Yes, I did. Okay.
Now, let me tell you, what are the things we want in your proposal? We want it a title, very clear title, huh? And you will give the introduction of your problem, why you have selected this and that, your justification. Huh? Then you will be writing the problem statement, and research design and methods. You want to do quantitative or qualitative, and the most important is the Gantt chart. Gantt chart is the time frame. Let's say January, end of January, what are the things you are targeting to complete? End of February, what are the things you are planning to complete? End of March, end of April, when is your submission plan? So this is the key areas for your research proposal. Am I clear, both of you?
Yes.
All right, so no confusion, right?
No, thank you.
All right. So let's go back to your student portal, because many students I see, they don't know how to access the materials and all, and to get the benefit of your portal. So as I mentioned in section 1 introduction, you see all the information are here. How to do Harvard referencing style is here. Can see, right? You see Harvard referencing style. And your plagiarism declaration form, as I mentioned, all of you need to fill up this form. Your project submission cover page, project proposal template, how to prepare your template, all the informations are there. In the section 2, you see overview of research process, introduction to research, business research, how to develop framework, research design and plan, literature review step by step, how to do it, how to write the problem statement. All the informations are available here. And as I mentioned in your under the resources, all the textbook, and the important part is here, assessment. So you see here, the research proposal. You should submit your proposal by 31st of January. So 1 month is given for your proposal. So are you guys clear now?
Yeah.
All right, Tracy. How about Alex?
One question again. Sorry about that.
Yeah, so go ahead.
So when we do our proposal and follow all the guidelines and everything like that, are we assigning a supervisor to check our proposal before we submit it the 31st of this month, or are we submitting it then to get approval?
Okay, you need to develop your proposal and submit first. Once we see, once we see what are your area, because some students look into the business HR issues, some students look into the financial issues, some students looking into the marketing issues. So we look into your proposal and we see your research topic, then we find out the appropriate supervisor who is experienced in your field.
Understood. Understood. Thank you so very much.
So once you submit your proposal by 31st of January, first or second week of February, we'll appoint your supervisor.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
No, sir.
All right. You all need to, when you receive the email, there was a survey link, it was provided. Could you please fill this up once we end our session here? The same email, when you receive the Zoom link, the same email, there is a link. Basically, we want to hear from our students, their feedbacks. So please complete that, right? So if there is no other questions, Alexander and Tracy, we end our session here. Wish your best research projects. Good luck.
Thank you, sir. All the best. See you soon.